We want to be credible at this level and be competitive.
OK, Celtic go to Munich full of belief after Dyson Maeda's late goal at Celtic Park on Wednesday night. So I thought we'd bring a former manager, no, a living legend, up to Glasgow to take a trip down memory lane and chat to the current gaffer, Brendan Rodgers. Come on, Martin, let's go. Let's chat football, shall we? Reflecting on Wednesday, you've had time to look back at the game, a rare defeat at Celtic Park, but what positives can you take going into Tuesday night in Munich?
Well, I think the game itself, we're obviously very rarely the underdog in a game, and Martin will tell you the expectation here a lot of the time is to win, and not just win, but to play well. The players have done brilliant in this Champions League phase. Then to get Bayern Munich in that sort of knockout stage was always going to be a big challenge. So we have to then pivot our strategy a little bit in order to cope with their quality, but whilst having an ability to cause them problems as well. So I felt from a defensive perspective, we were stable, we wwe disciplined in our game. There was moments where we could have pressed and we should have pressed more, but missed those moments. But we weren't giving too much away in the game. We're obviously disappointed with the 2 goals. First one right on half time, and the second one is, again, the small details that you have to take care of in the game. But yet again, the response of the players was great. You know, we end up last 25 minutes of the game, we start to move, we start to work better, get better pressure on the ball, and then all of a sudden we get to 2-1 and we look like we can get an equaliser in the game, if not more. So we can take from the game that our discipline is good, and we're going to have to be out there. Concentration at the level you have to be at the highest level. But we know we can play, and we can see that we can cause Bayern problems.
Talking about how you prepare for the game, and I wonder, have you the same sort of concerns that I used to have myself here, particularly European nights and Champions League games, where you have a plan, you talk to the coaching staff about it, which is, I suppose they should be in your plan, I must admit, and then that plan disappears completely when the crowd dictate the plan, because the crowd want you to get forward at every opportunity. That's what we had at our time, and I was wondering whether, you know, it's sometimes it can be a job for the players, particularly if you want a bit of discipline. You're not going to have the ball as much as you would have normally in normal circumstances. You're playing a top quality side in Bayern Munich, but still the crowd want you to urge forward at every single opportunity, and there's sometimes you just have to play without the ball.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and that's always the challenge, isn't it, Martin? You're 100% spot on. We've had that in other games where sometimes, because of the level of opponent, you might have to play a backward pass or a sideward pass to start a new attack. And it's not a negative pass, it's just the right pass to make to create another opening. But yeah, I think if the first goal goes in after the 28 seconds, then then everything changes, and you know. But I thought our crowd was brilliant the other night. Just kept with the team, because when you are a crowd that's used to having the ball and having 70 to 80% of the ball and constantly on the attack, it can be difficult to think, well, why can't we do that all the time? But the game's about levels, and they've got world-class players in really attacking positions, and they're waiting for you to come out and give them space.
I thought that when Celtic really did apply the pressure, I thought it was Bayern Munich who were hanging on at the end. And
seemed like there was an extra man on the pitch in the last 10 minutes.
No, our energy was great in the game, and like I say,
probably came from the penalty incident that wasn't given. You know, the crowd seemed to get re-energized from that there, and it was. And then getting the goal, and you know, now you're really on the front foot. Absolutely.
Martin, what's it like being back here? I know it's your first time at this training ground, but at a club where you were so successful.
Yeah, strangely enough, this did not exist in my time. I came here actually in, I think, about 2005 in its embryonic state, but it was not. It didn't have these pitches, and Celtic were thinking about moving. We had a Barrowfield was our training ground just up from Celtic Park, which was great for us. But yeah, the whole feeling of coming back to Celtic, and it's kind of strange, really, as much as anything else. I find that I'd been to a few matches. I decided to try and stay away as much as possible after I'd left. Do I enjoy coming back? The occasions that I do, yeah, I absolutely love it.
Lots of happy memories,
Yeah.
I'm sure. Brendan, speaking of that belief, you said after the Bayern Munich first leg that your players were not broken, they were still fighting. What can you say about the character, the resilience of these players here?
I can't speak highly enough, if I'm honest. I've been in here a year and a half now, and to see them grow and develop, and how I've asked them to work and play, and then the setbacks that they've had, which haven't been too many, but when they come, you still have to deal with it, and the maturity and the humility that they deal with them is what really strikes me. They have done that. They've responded to the knocks that they've had, and still kept that courage and that bravery to play how we want to play. So, and also to adapt. You know, I think the mark of a top team, we know how we want to play, we know our principles, and how that can be effective, even at the Champions League level. But there are certain moments where that, like I say, that pivot where you have to just adapt that strategy to make you competitive. Then they've done that very well.
What was the big message that you learned yourself from the Dortmund game that you took in very quickly into the Atalanta game?
Yeah, I think that's the key to anything, whether it's football, whether it's in life, is how you deal with a setback. Mm-hmm. And that was clearly a setback, and it was a real challenging night at that level. We'd come off the back of a domestic, we'd won 6-0, mm-hmm. and our plan was to go out and press the game in the right moments, but be compact and tight. And then all of a sudden, in the early stages of the game, it gets to 1-1, and we're maybe feeling good about ourselves. You then chase the game, and then all of a sudden, top players, they exploit the space.
As Brian Clough might say, that's where you earn your money, young man.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Martin, can you describe the pressure of managing such a huge club like Celtic?
Well, you would think that I should have known this because as a boy growing up from where I did, Northern Ireland, Catholic and supporting Celtic, you'd think that I should have a fair idea. But you know what, I honestly don't think now, looking back, that I probably realised how much pressure it was. I left Leicester City where I was enjoying myself immensely, but to come to Celtic Park, where you feel as if you're not just winning for yourself, you're winning for a lot of people, or trying to win for a lot of people. And I think I think the first couple of weeks it started to dawn on me just how traumatic it could be if you're not winning.
Bit of a shock then when you arrived.
I think it was. I try and, memory plays tricks on you, and you think after 25 years now since I arrived at the football club. But I think I was really excited by it, absolutely. But that excitement was tinged with a wee bit of fear as well too, because you're wondering whether you can catch up with Rangers or overhaul them. And of course Celtic itself is built on the European Cup final of 1967, the Lisbon Lions. Can you try and get remotely close to that? So all of those things going through your head. But yeah, it's challenging to say the least, and I think that would be a euphemism.
To think this is Celtic's first knockout tie in the Champions League for 12 years, just how much progress would you say has been made?
Yeah, I think what we're looking to, we want to be credible at this level. I think that's what's key for us. And when I came back, that was the notion that we could, restore the club to some great nights and be competitive. Because the reality is probably the squads haven't been strong enough to be able to compete. I also think that the format really helps clubs like ourselves at this. Clubs of our, I say size in the greatest terms. Celtic's one of the biggest clubs in the world, but in terms of
standing at this minute,
absolutely,
you are in the pantheon of European teams.
100%.
Absolutely.
Do you have a standout memory from your time here?
Well, I have a number. I suppose, really, I think that after 6 games in charge, we were playing Rangers in a big game. Rangers had won the previous season by about 21 points, you know. And so this was a really big moment for us to see whether we could compete. And and we won 6-2.
Wow.
I must admit it was really fantastic win. And it became I didn't know it at the time, but it really became like a seminal moment really in the changing of the guard. And I think that lots of Celtic fans have talked to me since about that and saying, you know, I was there that particular day. And what it did do initially gave us the confidence to think that we could compete with the Rangers, you know. And we ended up winning the treble that season, which was terrific for us. So if you're talking about a standout moment, particularly in my first season, it would probably be the 6-2 victory against Rangers.
A game to forget for Rangers fans.
Yeah, it would be, but an unforgettable one for us.
Do you have your team in mind already?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did you prepare that far in advance? Would you always have known your team that far in advance?
Probably not. I was probably into the next game, and I, as I'm quite sure Brendan does, I treat every game with the respect that it deserves. You know. Again, I get back to the point that Bayern would be expected to get through, taking a lead there, and so yeah, it was a difficult task, but it's one. Yeah, they'll be up for it. The players they'll relish it. I think that'll be the lovely thing about it.
Absolutely. You can go and really enjoy it.
Hopefully the manager does as well too. That's
Absolutely.
These are the games you want to be playing.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you, we can come back to this in a minute, but in a more general point, how have you felt about it coming back here, second time round? Have you seen some changes, or I assume some of the people that were here before are still here?
Yeah, no, I've enjoyed every second of it.
Okay, brilliant.
Martin. It was clear when I was here the first time. I had a great spell, and then probably more on my own mind. It was football. I felt maybe I'd taken Celtic as far as I could. And
no, you just wanted to leave, young man. You just wanted to leave. Okay. That's the point.
So, well, the point
Continue
was
that conversation off camera.
Yeah. So, no, I felt that I'd taken the club from a football perspective as far as I could, and probably with my football mind, moved on and went to Leicester and loved my time at Leicester. But I always felt that, and I really should have known better. I think of myself that it was only really when I left that I realised that probably what me leaving meant, not in an arrogant way, but in a way that it hurt people. And I should have known that, being a Celtic supporter, but I was more thinking football and my next football move. So I was very conscious that I'd hurt people when I left, and I wanted to make sure that when I come back that I then recognised and realised it is more than that as a Celtic manager. You're not, when it's people's life and the love and the passion that is for Celtic is incredible, and what that did when I left, that didn't sit well with me, and I certainly didn't want that as my legacy. So coming back, I felt I needed to continue to win, which you have to do here anyway.
Do you like that pressure that you have to win?
Yeah, I think it's something that when I obviously come from Liverpool, a club you had to win, and then I came to here. In some ways, and Martin will say, and maybe back me up on it, the pressure can be more here because you have to win every game. A draw away from home isn't deemed good enough. You have to win.
So is it sort of nice going into a knockout tie against Bayern Munich, where if you won, it would just be the most incredible thing for the club because it's not expected? Yeah. No. Of course, the expectation here is huge, and there will be supporters who will feel that you should still beat Bayern Munich. Yeah. But I think overall, coming back has been great. Like you say, Martin, a lot of the same staff here have been amazing, both here, the training ground, and at the club. The support I've had since I've come back has been great in terms of from the board. They've pushed the boat out to help, because I wanted to try and make us competitive in Europe, and they've been able to help us do that.
and hopefully we can continue to do that.
Because you said the reason why you left was you felt you couldn't go any further. Do you feel like the bar's been raised now, that's changed, and you can take this team beyond where you ever thought you could take your team before?
I think that the natural evolution here at a club like Celtic is that it's not like, with the greatest respect, you have a team for 3, 4, 5 years. You know, players come here, if we do well, they get taken and moved on to other clubs. So you'll have a core of players, but there's every 2 or 3 years there's always lots of change here. But the idea, of course, is to be better, whether you're bringing players in or whether you're developing players that are still here. I genuinely felt that we could do that coming back, and the club have been great in supporting that. So I feel that we've been able to move on and make that progress.
Were you surprised that Brendan came back for a second spell in charge here?
Yes, I was surprised. It was a surprise to a lot of Celtic fans. He left the football club at the time. He'd been very, very successful. The Celtic fans had taken him to their hearts. It almost seemed like an abrupt leaving. I think had he left at the end of that particular season with a few more trophies, I think everybody would have said, well done, Brendan. So coming back, I think, was brave as well too. The most important thing is when you do come back, particularly if you've got doubters, then you have to win football matches. He's been doing that again, and that's been terrific. The Champions League has been excellent as well too, qualifying for the knockout stages. So all of those things have been terrific for him. So I think that everybody's happy now, including Brendan.
You mentioned the side evolving, but for you personally as a manager, how would you say you've evolved since your first spell here? How different are you as a manager now? Or not?
Probably a little bit more relaxed, I would say. I say relaxed in the best possible case. I think when I came, the ambition to take Celtic, probably for me, might have been, when I look back at me, a little bit unrealistic. You know, I think now I understand the process more. I understand where we're at financially as a club, and then it's the case of really maximising that. So yeah, I think coming back the second time, it has felt great. You know, I drive up here every morning, still an amazing feeling. You know, at the end of my contract next year, I'll be here nearly 6 years, so which is a long time. But I feel fresh, and obviously that's the players that allow you to feel that, and obviously the great staff that we have.
Your favourite city? You admitted to me, is that correct?
Yeah, no, Glasgow's amazing. Yeah, I've been fortunate. I've lived all over the UK, born in Northern Ireland, brilliant upbringing, and then I've been London and the south of England, the Midlands, the Northwest. Lived in Wales, had a great spell in Wales and Swansea, and been up here, and we absolutely love life up here from a football perspective, but outside as well. So no, I'm very happy, very content, but obviously very driven to try and keep the club moving forward.
Martin, just how tough a game is it going to be in the Allianz Arena?
Oh, undoubtedly, very, very tough game. I mean, you're talking about playing away to Bayern Munich, so that in itself is tough. You're a goal behind as well. There's at some stage you know they're going to have to try and chase the game. That might not happen early on, but the fact is that the goal that Maeda scored gives you a little bit of hope in it, and keeps the tie to a certain extent in the balance. Obviously, Bayern are strong favourites, but you never know. It would be a fantastic surprise, but it would be a magnificent result if we could do it.
How different a game do you think it will be away from home on Tuesday in Munich? Apart from being freezing. I know it's cold here, but it's going to be even colder, isn't it?
Yeah.
-10, rumour has it.
Get the eye, so it'll be fresh. But no, listen, I think obviously with the home crowd and Bayern's home record, it's going to be a real challenge for us. But listen, what we've learned in management, anything can happen. You know, they could get a player sent off in the first 5-10 minutes, and it needs to be a performance full of concentration, full of discipline, and then belief when we have the ball that we could.
Just such fine margins at this level, right?
100%.
Any decision can
Yeah,
make
it's
a difference.
obviously, but everybody's, I think, aware that it's a daunting task for them. You know, but the goal, Maeda's goal, gives you a bit of hope. 2-0 was a long way back from the 2-1. you say, you're still in the tie. That's the point. I mean, Bayern would be strong odds on to win to go through with their home record and the players that they have at their at their disposal.
Yeah, I think Celtic supporters travel out there in that hope.
Yeah.
You know, we all go out there. The game at 2-1, of course, naturally, Bayern with everything that they have will be favourites for it. But
Does that suit you? Do you like that? The fact that Bayern are favourites?
Well, what it is, well, two legs, that everything's on the game now. So, whereas over, this is at the first leg, you got to make sure you're in the tie and not go gung ho and be out of it. So we've put ourselves in a good place. Could have been better, of course, but we're still in a good place in the tie. You get the first goal, and then and defend well, then things can get interesting.
And whatever happens on Tuesday night in Munich, reflecting on your Champions League journey this season, how proud will you still be?
Very much so, because at the beginning of the tournament, we wanted to make progress, and I feel we've done that. And so that's been a nice step. And then can we keep making steps and become a real seasoned team at this level that is competitive and can really challenge these big teams?
Yeah, absolutely. What a season it's been so far for Celtic. All the best on
Thank you
Tuesday
very
in the
much.
freezing conditions in Munich. We'll see you there. So there we have it, some positive words from Brendan Rodgers, and you can of course watch Bayern Munich take on Celtic this coming Tuesday live on Prime.